All right, everyone. I want to thank everyone for joining me on this day in July. It's the 20th July for the Spotlight. Now, we've had a lot going on here at Farsight, so we didn't have as many spotlights on Sunday nights as we normally do, so we had to pause because we were doing so much, and I'm about to explain what we did. But before I explain what we did, and we're going to get to the content on the Ukraine war, which is amazing the way we're going to show it to you, Aziz and I just got back from a long-planned surfing trip down at the beach in a remote location, and we had our conversation with Harvey. And if you have not yet seen it, it's on FarsightPrime.com. It's Aziz, myself, and Harvey, and Aziz was leading it this time. And it was at their request. They wanted Aziz to sort of run the show this time. And it was a fascinating discussion, and it included some of the content that we're going to be talking about today, but they really wanted to emphasize that this is what they want. Now, I want to emphasize, too, that the entire library at FarsightPrime.com was designed by them, not us. It's not like Aziz and I sat around and came up with these ideas. This is what they wanted. They wanted the FarsightPrime.com library to be a library of the true history of the United States, the world, the solar system, the galaxy. They wanted it to be a true history, because what you have been told in school and in your courses at in universities and throughout high school, it's just wrong. It's just inaccurate. And there's so much censorship in the academic settings. For example, you can't even talk about the extraterrestrials in any college campus in the United States. You can't talk about UFOs or UAPs in any college campus in the United States, despite the fact that there were congressional hearings for these things. So there's so much censorship. And with regard to archaeology, for example, as far as archaeology is concerned, human beings just started to build things just a few thousand years ago. The pyramids popped up, and anthropologists are saying 100, 150,000 years ago, current humans popped out of apes, and and that's where we are. And I'm all in favor of evolution, but evolution takes a long time. I mean, like hundreds of millions of years for serious stuff to happen. And you just can't have current day humans just popping out of nowhere. And so there's been tremendous stuff that's just not been discussed, and you cannot discuss it on college campuses today. You can't talk about anything about prior civilizations going back, advanced civilizations going back 10,000 years. You just can't do it. You can't talk about any archaeological evidence that does exist for civilizations that used to exist, and some evidence, physical evidence, still can be dug up, and a lot of it has been suppressed. You just simply can't talk about this anywhere. And so the courses that you get at universities, such as French and Spanish and German, they're fine. But and math, they're fine. But with regard to physics, you can't even talk about faster than light travel, how it actually would work in real terms. You can't talk about the ET spaceships that obviously do travel enormous speeds and enormous distances in a very short period of time, totally, violating both classical and relativistic physics with respect to what limits are with regard to speed. So, you just can't talk about that kind of stuff. There's so much censorship. And, in some, actually, for example, in university systems, to show you how rigid they are, in many high-end research university systems in physics, you can't get a job in a research department unless you do string theory, even though there are alternative theories to string theory. So, and no one really knows exactly what string theory is. There's no one single string theory. There's a whole collection of mathematical theories that they group together, and people do that, and they call that string theory. But there's so much stuff that you're just not getting. Psychology, for example. Psychology, they don't even exist. They don't even explain or accept that An ISBE, an ISBE, an ISBE even exists, a non-physical component, a soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it. They think that the body and the mind ends when the body ends, so that consciousness goes away. I saw a huge, very famous mainstream astronomer from Harvard on a podcast the other day, saying that he was asked, well, what about the idea of a sentient, spirit, soul, something like that? And he said point blank, I've seen no evidence that anything like that exists. And when the body dies, it's like unplugging a computer. It just goes away. It stops. And I said, what? And no evidence was considered with respect to the remote viewing phenomenon. I'm sure that astronomer doesn't think that remote viewing even works, even exists. I mean, so and you can't even talk about that at university systems. It's not like there's an active debate that's allowed. No debate. There's no debate. You just actually cannot talk about certain things. So, we are in a situation ourselves where we're trying to say, well, what do we need to do to change the situation? Now we have a situation where university degrees, college degrees, liberal arts degrees, seem to be heading in the direction of not being relevant anymore. And I'm a professor at a major university, and I really like the university degrees. I think it's really great, practice for getting people how to think in systematic ways. But now major companies, and I'm talking like major companies, like a huge proportion of the major companies, say they don't even consider university degrees when hiring anymore. What? But that's because they find that practical experience in coding and things like that. If we're talking Google, Microsoft, Apple, things like that, they don't look at that type of thing, and a lot of them like to do their own self-training. So the real question is, are universities evolving to make themselves obsolete by keeping themselves so rigid and stuff like that? So what you're getting when you are watching FarsightPrime.com is stuff none of that is allowed at the university system. And the ETs wanted us to explain to you that that's really important. That all the stuff on FarsightPrime.com is what you're being denied. Those concepts, every single project is not allowed. Our mysteries projects, our deep news projects, our conversations with Harvey projects, the project where we have board meetings with the extraterrestrials, none of that is allowed. So what we have now is, this is not just true of universities, but that's not allowed in all mainstream news outlets. So you're not able to get anything. The controllers of the system have everything locked down, and the ETs really value the fact that you have to have an alternate source of information. And that's what Farsight Prime was all about. FarsightPrime.com, that's what it's about. It's the library that you can go to get basically the truth. And, Aziz and I and the other people at Farsight, we didn't design this. It's way beyond our pay grade. These are the projects they wanted us to do. The ETs wanted us to do. This is their library that they wanted to have. Now, the trouble is, it's succeeded. It's so big now, it's hard to find your way around. So how do you actually go into it? It's like going into a forest and saying, start telling me what the nature of the forest is all about. And you say, I just see trees all over the place. So if you go into FarsightPrime.com, all you see is these projects all over the place. So many projects. Just the mysteries projects alone are over 100. And then you have the deep news projects, then you have the conversations with Harvey projects, and you have the ET board meeting projects. I mean, like, what? So how are we going to do this? And now we have the spotlight projects and stuff like that. So the ETs themselves, they knew that something had to be done about this. So they came up with the idea of the vault. The vault, everybody. The vault is a way to organize everything. And so what they want everyone to watch the projects. But how do you know what's in the project so that you know what you want to see? How do you organize them? And what if there's a bunch of projects you want to relate to each other and there's nobody there to relate to them? Okay? What if you wanted to compare the Ra project to the stuff you get out of the Law of One? Or what if you wanted to compare Ra to the Zeus project? Or what if you wanted to compare the Phoenix Lights projects to the Rendlesham project? Or what if you wanted to compare a whole bunch of different things? How do you end up doing that? How do people do that? Well, we had to wait until this moment. And this is where AI is coming about. Whether it's ChatGPT or whether it's Gemini or whatever, you can use AI to help you through it. But you need something from us to do that. So what we came up with is something called the Vault. Actually, we didn't come up with that. They told us what to do. And the reason we had to do fewer spotlights and even our publishing of videos was a little slower over the last 3 months is because we were working nonstop, day and night, to create this vault. And most of it's done, but we're still adding things to it. We're adding the deep news stuff. We're adding the conversations with Harvey. We're adding the ET board meeting stuff. And what that is on our website, farsight.org, we have this thing called the Vault. And what I'm going to show you now, let me actually show it to you now, okay? This is the website, farsight.org, for our normal website. Now look at the introduction section at the very top. You see this thing? It's in yellow, introduction. When you click on that, a little menu opens up. It's sort of a big menu, actually. And the last thing on that is the Vault. Does everyone see the Vault? Okay. Now the Vault is a collection of transcripts for all of our mysteries projects. And we're going to be adding our deep news and our ET board meetings and things like that. Now let me change it to, as if I'm clicking on it now. I'm going to change it to the, and now we're going to see the Vault. Now this is the Vault. Now what the Vault is, we have over 100 mysteries projects. This is why there's we've been a little slow in getting everything out over the last 3 months. We've been working on this Vault. And I mean, we're talking here, myself and Aziz. Aziz was great. He was at the computer day and night until late in the morning, until he was doing all of the, what we had to do is we had to get captions for every single one of our projects in 12 languages so that they could go up on FarsightPrime.com. And then we got a transcript of each one of the projects, which is every single word that's spoken under totally blind conditions, okay? It's not, no bias in it, just everyone, they were all remote viewers, the best remote viewers on the planet, under totally blind conditions, doing their stuff. And then the transcripts got every single word of that. And then we had to take all of these and put these up on this Vault. And so there's a little download thing. You have the date at which the actual project came out, and then you actually have the name of the project, and you click on the name of the project, you can see the target that was involved and other information about the project, plus the trailer. But then if you click on the download, it downloads a text file, a TXT file. And this is all coming out of GitHub, which is the leading repository of, major computer electronic stuff in the world. And so that's where we have the website. And so this downloads the transcript. Now, the transcript is really not designed, you can read it if you want, but it's not designed for a human to read. It's really designed for an AI to read. So what you do is you download any or all of these transcripts, and then you pick the ones you want to talk about, and you upload them to your AI, to your ChatGPT, or to your Gemini. If you're using Gemini, when you're actually talking, there's an add button where you can upload files, and you upload any of these transcripts. All right, and the transcripts are huge. And so what we have is these transcripts, and so with these transcripts, you can, it's as if, okay, look, folks, it's like this. It's as if you have me in your living room, and you're saying, Courtney, or you have Aziz in your living room, Courtney or Aziz, what do we do with all these projects? Tell me about this project or that project and relate them all, because I'm going to go watch them on FarsightPrime.com, but I want to know what ones I want to watch and what connections I want to make. Do you get the idea? You just upload them, and the AIs love, I don't know, this is a secret or anything, but in case you haven't heard, the AIs love to talk. They love to talk. So when you ask them questions, they spill out all types of interesting stuff. They make connections. They do all types of stuff. with these things you're putting up, and it's all on the actual transcripts, so that you can see that. And then, at first we were concerned, well, maybe people would stop subscribing to FarsightPrime.com and we'd go out of business if we put the transcripts up. But then we realized, no, people don't want to read those transcripts. It's like reading a dictionary. The AIs are the ones who help to interpret it and bring it forward and summarize it and show you all the bullet points of the major things. And in addition, they have statistics to show you the accuracy. And then the next thing you want to do is, if the transcripts and if the AI is telling you that this stuff is great, then you want to go see the actual video. And the actual video has all the graphics, has all the stuff, the pictures, the people describing things. That's the movie that you really want to see. But before you see it, you want to know, is it worth seeing? So in addition to doing summaries and stuff like that, we had our AI go through all of the transcripts and do summaries of it, and those are in the transcripts as well. But also they did statistics. Believe it or not, you have accuracy statistics, and you say, okay, well, Courtney, how can you have accuracy statistics on the raw project? Who knows what raw is? What's verifiable about that? Okay, well, Sam, you can say the same thing about other projects, even political projects, assassination of JFK, the 9/11 project, everything. You can say, so how can you say you can tell accuracy on something that's esoteric, for example, such as the Rendlesham UFO incident in Britain? It's easy. We have multiple remote viewers, typically minimum 3, but usually 4 or 5 remote viewers go in under totally blind conditions. They know nothing at all about the project or the target when they do their sessions, even when they're in the studio doing the recording of the sessions. They're alone in the studio and they're just talking, and they don't find out what the target is until the target reveal in the studio, and you get to see it. So you get to know that it's real, because they can't fake that. Oh my gosh, so that's what the target was all about. So they do all of their work blind. Now, what is the probability that all 4 or 5 remote viewers come up with the exact same thing? Listen to me, folks. What is the probability that they can come up with the exact same thing when the projects, they don't know what the projects are, they don't know what the targets are, and there's a huge variety. Just look at all the projects, look at all the variety. What's the probability of them being describing the same thing? 0, folks. And so what our AI was able to do is to collect what she calls a null hypothesis, which is a collection of perceptions, a collection of things that would be comparable to just random stuff, versus a collection versus the actual perceptions that were gotten by the remote viewers. And then it was able to also look at the accuracy in terms of the remote viewers' overlap between all saying the same thing. So there's 2 different ways of doing accuracy. There's some things that we would know about a certain target. For example, the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's got to be in a desert. There's camels running around, things like that, and there's got to be pyramids out there. Okay, so they have to have explained that kind of stuff. So how much do the perceptions that were gotten by the remote viewers match what would be expected from that target? Okay, that's one bit of accuracy. There are always something verifiable about every target, and then the real question is, well, with regard to that stuff that is verifiable, how accurate is that? But then there's another thing of the overlap between the remote viewers. When one remote viewer has the same description as another, and then all 4 remote viewers or all 5 remote viewers have the same description, that's another level of accuracy. So the transcripts actually contain statistical accuracy stuff. And if you look through that, and you can't get that from any other source. Everybody on the mainstream is going to be saying, nah, this is crazy, this stuff isn't accurate. And they don't know squat. They haven't looked at any of the data. They haven't looked at any of the statistics. And we also have a link up there that describes how those statistics are actually written, how they were actually computed. So it's full transparency. And so you can actually have your AI as if I were in your, or Aziz was in your, or Yeme was in, or Intisam was in your, or Shantae was in your living room. And you're asking us, well, what's about this particular project? What's important? And it's your AI talking. And the AI has all of the data for every single person, word for word, all collected under blind conditions. You can't get better than that. And even when you watch the mainstream news, none of that is blind. The people that are the newscasters, they're not blind to anything. They have their prejudices. They have they have their stuff of what they think they're going to say or what they're not going to think they're going to say. I saw one mainstream newscaster just the other day say, well, I don't go into any of this conspiracy stuff, so I assume that what happened to Jeffrey Epstein was just what they said. You know, he committed suicide. And then he went on to interview somebody else. What? You can't say that. If you're a newscaster, you have to be objective, and you have to say, well, what are the data? What's actually done? And we have in our Jeffrey Epstein project described exactly how Jeffrey Epstein was killed. And you have all of the people saying the similar type of stuff, and you get, you know, your AI telling you the corroboration between the actual remote viewers, giving you the actual statistics for it and everything. You can't get better than that. If you want to know how Jeffrey Epstein died, it's right there in the vault and in the FarsightPrime.com projects, all collected blind, no bias, no prejudice, no nothing. It's all there, and you even have the accuracy statistics and the probability of being not correct. And the probability is extremely small that it's not correct, and the statistics are actually all there. That's something you don't get from anywhere else. Anyway, so that's what the vault is all about. Now I want to give you an example. All right, so we just put up the stuff about the Ukraine war spilling into Europe. Now the Ukraine war, this is the thing. All the news seems to be suggesting that it's a possibility that World War III may happen, in the sense that people are sending more weapons to Ukraine, and Ukraine doesn't want to give up, and you're talking about the surrender of Ukraine, and Russia is gearing up bigger and bigger, more and more. At the same time, we have the stuff going on in the Middle East, but now we're just focusing on the Ukraine war. So we have sessions from Rock Arki, Aziz, Brown, Entisam, Yeme, Shantae, everybody. They've all done sessions on the Ukraine war, and we put 2 sessions up within the last 24 hours. And so we're basically done with that. And I want to give you an idea of how I took all 4 sessions, the transcript for all 4 sessions, and uploaded them to ChatGPT and said, can you analyze these? All right, now this is great because then the transcripts for all 4 sessions then can be looked at. Actually, it's 5 sessions, I believe. And so can be looked at, and ChatGPT can say, well, this is the overlap, this is what we're seeing. So it's not like you're looking at just one, you're looking at all of them. Now in FarsightPrime.com, if you click on the big link for the series for deep news, you get to see them all nicely organized in one nice spot. And you have 11 or 12 different languages you can in the caption, so you know you're not limited by language. So look at what we have here. I'm getting this from ChatGPT from those 5 transcripts, okay? So this is about the Ukraine war, the next phase, okay? And so it's drawing from the transcripts, and I want to give you an idea what happens when you take from the vault transcripts from multiple projects, putting them into your AI and asking it questions. Just imagine as if I was in your living room and you could ask me questions. That's what you're able to do now. Okay, so the real question is, will the war in Ukraine expand into Western Europe in 2025, and what determines that outcome? And so they ask, to answer it, we tasked multiple remote viewers with exploring 2 future timelines, both centered outside of Ukraine, inside Western Europe. Now, there were 2 focuses. The first focus is when Europe sends additional and significant military support to Ukraine, and the second focus is where Europe withholds, does not send further support to Ukraine, avoiding deeper involvement, okay? Basically giving up on Ukraine. So each of the sessions was conducted totally blind, and the viewers had no knowledge of the target beforehand, and they didn't talk to each other about the project during the data collection phase. Okay. So, focus 1, where the military support continues. Now, this is drawing from all the remote viewers, not just one. okay? All of them. If Western, and they did this totally blind, they didn't know what they were describing, they just did their perceptions. If Western Europe continues military support with regard to weapons, troops, systems, the war crosses borders. Now, let's go over some of the viewers. Aziz saw missile strikes directly hitting urban areas in Western Europe. His data showed control rooms, explosions, and fast airborne moving objects, all consistent with war on Western soil. Antisam, these are little summaries of each session, she described widespread scorched terrain, flame-engulfed buildings, military vehicles, and a formal subject being handcuffed and marched away. Her symbolism was clear. Escalation leads to fire. Shantae then says, I mean, isn't this great in terms of summarizing what's going on? And then you can actually watch the shows, the actual projects, and know what you're watching and saying, and see it live, and then you actually all recorded live, and then you get to see the videos, and you get to see the graphics and how the remote viewer is struggling to describe all these things. It's very persuasive. Shantae described multiple missiles, subjects scrambling in confusion, infrastructure disintegrating, and a tone of helplessness. Symbolically, she drew a line between two futures. One had fire and one didn't. And then Yeme, which we just uploaded like last night or something, she depicted large metallic airborne weapons losing control and smashing into structures. The result was mass casualties, smoke, confusion, emotionally possessed chaos. She even described the launch mechanism malfunctioning in flight, suggesting deeper entanglements. Now let's talk about common patterns, okay? Common patterns, this is coming from the AI now. So you can say, okay, well, what about, this is all Courtney stuff, bias. No, this is the AI looking at the transcripts that are all using, that's raw data collected under totally blind conditions. This is what the AI is coming up with after looking at the data. The common pattern. Focus 1 brings direct destruction to Western Europe, not just politically or economically, but physically and symbolically. The decision to support Ukraine militarily drags Europe into the war, not through choice, but consequence. Now let's go to Focus 2, where Europe does not supply more military aid to Ukraine, basically letting Ukraine go. If Western Europe stops escalating military aid, the fire stalls. Aziz saw political negotiations and only isolated attacks, not widespread conflict. Missiles were gone. One building was damaged, but the war did not spread. Intisam she described formal indoor meetings, a UN-like environment, and a sense of dark diplomacy. The war seemed paused beneath the surface, not ignited on the streets. Again, this is all under blind conditions, folks. Shantae captured a symbolic quiet, people walking about unaware, no missiles, no fire, but a psychological tension, like standing on a frozen lake waiting to hear a crack. And then Yeme's data, which we just uploaded, actually Yeme and Aziz within the last 24 hours we uploaded them. Yeme's data was subtle. There was chaos somewhere in Focus 2. But it hadn't broken through yet. She saw tension, not flames. Disagreement, not detonation. Common pattern. Focus 2 is not peace. It is delayed war. But in that delay, there is room to maneuver, to rethink, to choose something else. Now ChatGPT actually did what it calls a geopolitical overlay as of July 2025. Right now, NATO is expanding its direct involvement in Ukraine. Troop deployments are being considered. Long-range weapons are being green-lit. European defense budgets are skyrocketing. The press calls it containment, but the deep news sessions raise a chilling alternative. What if containment triggers ignition? This isn't just about tanks and treaties. It's about threshold and whether Western Europe is about to step across it. Okay. Now let's look at the symbolic insight. This project does not declare certainty. It shows contrast between kinetic ignition, which is Focus 1, and strategic restraint, which is Focus 2. And that's between cities that are struck and cities withholding their breath. That type of a contrast. And a contrast between war made visible and war delayed by will. Again, we're not talking about peace in either one. We're talking about war now versus war delayed. So the viewers didn't see guesses. They saw consequences. 2 timelines, one is lit, the other is tense. We're walking one of them now. The question is, do we realize it in time? Do we understand everything? So what you're getting when you look at the Ukraine war, for example, and of course Rock Arky's results are very similar to this as well, but when you look at all of the examples, all of these sessions, you get to see it, and those are data describing under live conditions, under totally blind live remote viewing, and everybody's describing the same thing. Folks, that's accurate. The level of accuracy, just in terms of overlap, in terms of, you can call it the reliability index, is enormously high. So this is, no, that's not saying for certain what's going to happen in the future. The future is always in motion, as Yoda says. But do you see how when we take 5 sessions actually, if you include Rock's, the reason I didn't include Rock's initially is because I had that in what they call an SRT file, which is the actual captions, and I did not yet translate it into a transcript. So, but Rock's results were very similar to these. And so what we have is a situation in which you get to see an analysis of that. So imagine me sitting in your living room talking about this, and you can then say, oh, it's just Courtney and his bias. But this is not a bias. Data that were obtained under blind conditions, looked at by an objective AI, and synthesized, and that's what it says. Folks, do you realize how valuable this is? So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing it with all of our deep news projects and adding that to the vault. But right now we have all of our mysteries projects. So I wanted to let everybody know about this vault. You got to go to the vault. And then when you go to the vault, download those transcripts, and then talk to your AI. Whether you're listening to Grok or whether you're listening to Gemini or whether you're listening to ChatGPT, upload those files and talk and get a synthesis of what's actually happening, and then go to Farsight Prime and watch the actual session so you can actually see the graphics, you can actually see the sketches, you can actually see the emotions of the remote viewers when they're describing these things, and then you say, now you understand it. And you can get nothing like that anywhere else in the entire planet. Nowhere on the internet, nowhere can you get the same thing. And then when you say, what about all the mysteries projects? Same thing. The statistical overlap is described in all of the mysteries projects. The accuracy is described even in sessions that appear to be just esoteric. There's stuff that can be described in terms of accuracy and reliability because of the overlap between the remote viewers all working independently. This is great stuff. And so that tells you that when you're watching the stuff on FarsightPrime.com, you're really getting the right stuff. You're getting the real stuff. It's not something that Courtney just dreamed up and wants you to believe. Now it's objective. You can see that the sessions are there, the transcripts are there, your own AI is analyzing the stuff and telling you about it, and that tells you that you're investing good time when you watch the projects on FarsightPrime.com. You're not wasting your time. You're not wasting your time. How many people are going to be replaced by AI and they have advanced college degrees? What? Was it a waste of time to go to college in some cases and learn how to do, math or something like that, or anything else, business or whatever, and then, you have $200,000 of debt and your job is as a driver for Uber or Lyft because AI replaced you in the jobs you were looking for. So you don't know what you're getting, and then the stuff you're getting. If the universities were more flexible in their content so that they could raise new ideas and let these ideas be around, then they would never become obsolete. And then the graduates would never become replaced by AIs, because these AIs really rely on human contribution, and human contribution that's innovative, that's creative, you can't replace that. But that's not what you're getting. So the real question is, when how do you actually see the real stuff? Well, at Farsight, FarsightPrime.com, that is the real stuff. And then your AI can help you draw all these conclusions, from that. So that's really what I wanted to talk with you about, to make sure you know about the vault. Okay, how many downloads and sessions can a chat hold? That's a good question. So if you wanted to upload things, typically with Gemini or ChatGPT, for example, you can upload 10 transcripts at a time, 10 files at a time. But you can upload all of them 10 at a time and then ask it to go through these things and summarize these things. But I would advise, actually, that I was on a podcast the other day, and it's going to be coming out pretty soon, and that the interviewer uploaded all of them. I said, what? Interviewer was fascinated by the whole thing and uploaded all of them. I believe he uploaded them to both ChatGPT and to Gemini. And in one case, he just said, Gemini, come up with, what's this story about? He uploaded like all of them to Gemini in batches of 10, and then said, what's this going on? What's going on? And then Gemini, of all things, and Gemini is a pretty conservative AI, summarized the whole thing, and it talked about the galactic involvement, the Holocaust in the galaxy, the conflict between the different species, the suppression efforts on Earth, everything, and in terms of a huge galactic impact on what's going on, the war, the past conflicts, as if it was me talking. And this is the interviewer telling me what Gemini was summarizing. I couldn't have summarized it better. And then the interviewer said, but of course I'm just doing cursory stuff. I only had a couple hours to put into this. It's not very deep. And I said, wait, stop. What do you mean cursory stuff? This is some of the deepest stuff that could ever be drawn from our vault, from the volume of stuff that we have. And you're drawing it after just working at it for a couple hours. You're coming out with conclusions with your AI that normally you would be expecting me to say, but then you'd say it was biased because it was coming from me. But now it's you coming out with it with your AI. And this isn't superficial stuff. This isn't cursory stuff. This is the deepest that you can get. But he thought it was superficial because it only took a little bit of time to do it. That was the key. That means in a very short amount of time, you can come out with these huge conclusions, these huge summaries, these huge understandings of the whole galactic picture. And it's easy. You just take them, download them, upload them to your AI and say, talk to me. And it will talk to you. And those things are all written and checked by an AI to make sure that they're easily read by an AI. So that we formatted them specifically to be read by an AI, so it's easy for the AI to read it. So it's no problem at all to upload those things and have the AI sort of go through them and in a blink of an eye understand everything that's in the entire project. But do you see what's so important here? When you get the summary and from the analysis and the synthesis from the AI, you then know that when you're watching the stuff on FarsightPrime.com, you're not wasting your time. You've got an objective collection of data, an objective analysis from an AI, and you know now that when you're watching this stuff on FarsightPrime.com, it's for real. You're not wasting your time. Even though mainstream can say it's conspiracy this, it's New Age this, we don't have any evidence of that. They can say whatever they want. You know better at this point because it's been analyzed, and you can say, no, whatever you say in the mainstream, I don't care what you cannot say in the universities, this stuff has been analyzed. It's been the sessions were done blind. The entire collection is available, and every single word that was spoken in the entire collection was analyzed objectively by an AI. Statistics formed, everything, and all the methods that were used for collecting the statistics are also explained. On the vault near the top, there's a special link for a detailed description of all the methods that were used to do all the statistics. So this tells you that you're watching something that's real, that's for real. Now, when you watch another program, say on Disney or Paramount Plus or whatever, you're getting a movie that you know is fiction. Now, our stuff is better than a movie. The consequences are dramatic, and it's for real. It's for real. I mean, watch the project, The War in Heaven, where the planet Maldek blew up, leaving the asteroid belt. Just watch that, and then you say, well, no, the mainstream astronomers said the asteroid belt is just something left over from the primordial solar nebula. Bull. It was a planet, and there was a war, and it was blown up. That's how the asteroid belt actually happened. And now you can actually get your AI to describe exactly the accuracy and everything about it. You don't have to worry about what the stupid astronomer professor told you. You can actually get objective information about what actually happened and the war that took place in this solar system. Yeah. Okay. Hey, we've had a great turnout today. And we've got lots of stuff that's coming, that's planned. So as you can see, we're pumping out stuff as fast as we can now. But on the other hand, we have stuff that you'll be seeing, when Aziz and I go and we have our discussions with the ETs, we get ideas and they tell us what to do, and we sort of ruminate about everything ourselves. And well, the trajectory that Farsight is on is unbelievable. Well, it is believable to us, but you'll say, like, whoa, how did that actually happen? Come around September and October, you won't believe what's going to be happening. So this is the beginning. Now, 3 months ago, if I told you that we were doing transcripts and captions, you would have said, what? Sounds boring. But, it's not boring now that you actually see it, now that the results are here. So I'm telling you now that Farsight is never sleeping. And so come around September and October, you're going to be astounded at what happens. So that when you subscribe to FarsightPrime.com, you're making all of this possible. You're making all of this possible. So I want to thank all of our subscribers on FarsightPrime.com. You are paying for everything. We don't have any other source of income to do this. And this is stuff that you can get nowhere else. And now we can demonstrate to you that it's all real and it's worth it. This is great. You won't believe what's coming too. But anyway, that's enough for now. I will see you again. We will have a live stream again on Sunday and next Sunday, and we're bringing back the live streams in the sense that we had to pause for a few weeks because I was just overloaded and there was just too much stuff, and Aziz was here night and day working on transcripts and stuff like that, and he has his own life to live in his own apartment, and he was just sacrificing all of that to help get us all through this for some months now. A lot of work's been going on, everybody. Okay? All right, everybody. This is great, and I will see you in 1 week next Sunday at the next Spotlight where we'll have our next live stream. Okay? All right, everybody. See you then.